Our next speaker is Joanne Jacobs. Joanne is an award-winning digital strategist and company director, and she's the managing partner, along with Gavin Heaton, of Disruptors Handbook, a firm that facilitates innovation. She is on the board of Code Club Australia, as well as the New South Wales Digital Advisory Panel. Please welcome Joanne.
So while Paul's been looking at data and our concern about reporting and how reporting data itself could be problematic, I'm going to take a slightly different tack and look at the issues with what's changing in the media and how the media has been disrupted in such a way that it has got to the stage where even if you have the right data, your audience won't necessarily believe what you have to say. This is a problem that has come out from the fake news era. But as you can see, this is the first Viscount of Northcliffe, Lord Northcliffe, once described journalism as a profession whose business is to explain to others what it personally does not understand. Now, in an era where there is fewer, this is what I'm going to be covering, trends and forces impacting on media and consequences for social justice. But in an era where there are fewer journalists than ever before, fewer sub-editors who, frankly, sub-editors had a very important role in the history of journalism. They were people who gave the sanity check to the journalists who didn't know what they were talking about. But in an era where we've got fewer journalists, we've got a fragmented media landscape, and that's much more so than just moving from newsprint to radio to television. We're talking to a point now with the internet where there are so many channels for reception of news that individuals can choose which view they actually want to hear from the news they get. So it is never an impartial view that people are receiving. Increasingly, people are choosing a specific perspective when they are choosing their news. We've got less interest in fourth estate ideals. I'm not sure anybody knows what the fourth estate is anymore. If you don't, it was the first, the Lord's spiritual, Lord's temporal, the commons, and finally the fourth estate. Or in other words, the fourth estate was supposed to keep all of the other ones honest. We do have another quote in Australian history, but I won't use that particular pejorative term. Can I just ask, show of hands, who recognises this logo? How many of you own one? This is a Ferrari logo, for those of you who don't know. This is the reason why the advertising model is broken. The corporate world has only just triggered that, in fact, what they have been sold for 50 years has been a scam. Advertising is never going to, or brand awareness and brand identity has no correlation whatsoever with sales. It never has. There's a correlation between awareness and intention to purchase. There's a correlation between intention to purchase and sales. There is no correlation between awareness and sales. So the very business model upon which journalism and media was based is so badly broken, it will never be fixed. This is something that mainstream media still don't understand. The fact that they haven't been able to find a new business model is frankly baffling, but it is something that is going to change the way that we receive news. I could do the same with a whole bunch of other slides. I could do it, with, everyone recognise that one? Yeah, you will know, but maybe don't know, you know that one. Most people don't eat it, or if they do, they die. So these are the forces that are operating all on media. So the impact of those forces is that that accuracy in reporting is in decline, because with fewer journalists, with fewer people actually gathering the information that is required, the information is being nudged, slightly moved towards the perspective that the audience wants to hear. So accuracy in reporting is declined. Media trust is in decline. Time spent with news media is in decline. And there's plenty of research to back all of this up, of course. If you look at errors, percent of errors over time, you see that there's a gradual increase in the number of reports where there are errors as fewer journalists are out there and there is more skewed reporting. Trust in Australian media just keeps plummeting and will continue to do so. Time spent in reading news over the last 4 years came down in the UK by about a quarter. So really, when it comes to the trust in messaging at all, it is so low now that we've got to a stage where audiences feel that they control what they believe is correct. There is less consultation of media as a source for accuracy, for general knowledge, for understanding. What is increasing is belief in myths and susceptibility to scams, belief in pseudoscience, anti-vaxxing, people who don't believe in climate change, acceptance of alternative facts. This is the only thing that's on the rise at the moment. And when it comes to disrupting journalism, there's nothing like facts being incorrect disrupting journalism. I'm going to show a video too because I like them and because of the fact that I think it should be compulsory, this particular video. But the consequences, I want to finish with this video, but the consequences of this is that awareness engagement around social justice is at risk. Now, you've heard some messaging even today from people here, which I totally respect and admire, which is go and talk to your local member, go and write a letter to the editor, go and engage with news radio. The problem is the audiences of these news sources are not going to believe you, no matter how many facts you give them. But there is a solution.
When MacArthur Wheeler learned that lemon juice was used as invisible ink, he rubbed it on his face and confidently proceeded to rob 2 banks. When the police found him, he was shocked. His disbelief was equal to theirs. He had even taken a picture to check he was invisible. The case inspired experiments by Professors David Dunning and Justin Kruger. They found that the least proficient students dramatically overestimated their own ability. The skills they lacked were the same skills required to recognize their incompetence. Dunning found that the incompetent are often blessed with an inappropriate confidence buoyed by something that feels to them like knowledge. Could the Dunning Kruger effect explain some of Trump's actions? We'll get to that, but another cognitive bias certainly shapes his ideas. Salience bias leads the media to focus on the most shocking and negative news, including stories that represent the worst 0.1% of immigrants.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
In fact, immigrants reduce the crime rate. Over the past 30 years, the incarceration rates for Americans born in the US have been 2 to 5 times higher than for immigrants. Cost of our distorted view may include a $20 billion border wall. And can you spot the salience bias in Trump's budget priorities? Bottom of the list is the Environmental Protection Agency. Air pollution alone causes 200,000 early deaths in America each year, but this isn't news. Trump's top priority is defense, with a major budget hike. The US already spends more on defense than the next 7 nations combined. It owns 10 of the world's 18 active aircraft carriers, and on average, the US ships are around twice as big as the rest. But war is always in the headlines, and Trump proposes to increase spending by almost the equivalent of the entire Russian defense budget. When the media is on the attack, an incendiary statement is a powerful diversion, and repetition has a strange effect. In 1968, two groups of people were shown nonsense Chinese-style characters, some more frequently than others. 11 out of 12 times, the characters that were shown more often were thought to have more positive meanings. The effect may be due to our brain's preference for things that are easy to process, much in the same way that we prefer sharp images and clear sound. So when Trump repeatedly says he'll bring back manufacturing jobs, people start to believe him.
We will bring our jobs back, Sean. We're going to bring our jobs, as sure as you're sitting there, we are going to bring our jobs back into this country for the first time.
Unfortunately, 86% of those jobs were in fact lost to automation. But how do we explain Trump's claim that climate change was a hoax created by the Chinese? 97% of climate scientists agree that humans are causing global warming, but Trump appointed someone who denies this to head the Environmental Protection Agency. It's the Dunning Kruger effect in full force. It affects everyone, from bank robbers to presidents. With any given subject, complete ignorance breeds confidence. So how do we help people see the truth about immigrants and the environment? Psychologists believe our opinions are like protective castle walls, and simply pointing to facts can be futile. Experiments have even shown that people will defend decisions that they never actually made. In one case, people were asked to choose the most attractive faces from several sets of pictures. The pictures were then secretly swapped, and the people were asked to explain their choices. 75% didn't notice the switch and gave reasons for the selections. But don't give up hope just yet. Experiments have identified something that's more convincing than facts alone. In 2008, most Republicans were against bringing troops home from Iraq. A group of them were shown statistics about a dramatic fall in violence and asked if it might be a reason to bring troops home. They were not convinced. A second group was asked to remember a positive memory, a time when they felt good about themselves, before receiving the same statistics. They were much more open to changing their minds. FBI hostage negotiator Chris Voss notes that a simple smile triggers an automatic response that makes a real difference. It's not a tactic Trump is known for. And with the media thriving on his incendiary style, the descent into doom-mongering seems unstoppable. But it isn't, because while we see constant gloom, the real world is getting better and better. Over the past 30 years, the number of people living in absolute poverty has declined from 53% to 17%. And in 25 years, infant mortality rates have dropped by 50%. Violent crime has dropped dramatically in the US and many other countries. And around the world, people are receiving far more years of education than ever. When Trump raises fears of immigrant terrorists, keep in mind that since 9/11, no one has died in a terrorist attack by immigrants from the countries he wants to ban. Meanwhile, the Environmental Protection Agency has prevented hundreds of thousands of early deaths from air pollution alone.
Department of Environmental Protection. We are going to get rid of it in almost every form.
The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance. It is the illusion of knowledge.
I love that video because of the fact that it does actually say there is a solution. It is to engage those audiences that are most likely to disagree with you in a way where they feel empowered. If we can do that, we can perhaps disrupt the disruptors. Thank you.